Chapter 1. The Scarred Omega. All her life, she was whispered about for what she had never received. But tonight, beneath the crimson moon, the Lycan prince's eyes found her, burning with a hunger that promised no mercy. One touch was all he demanded. But what happens when one touch ignites eternity? If you love intense, forbidden supernatural romance, don't forget to subscribe and stay with me, because this is only the beginning. The bonfire light from the crimson moon ceremony flickered across her skin, but Lyra stood at the shadow's edge, invisible among the jeers and bitter taunts. Broken, abandoned, worthless. The words had become thorns wrapped around her heart, worn every day in her pack. Omegas were meant to be chosen, bonded, cherished. Yet she remained alone, unwanted, a mockery among wolves who treated solitude like poison. Her silver dress, modest and worn, clung to her in the evening breeze, offering no shield against their cutting words. She tried to calm her breathing, to ignore the sting, but the empty void inside her grew deeper with every passing season. She craved something more, something wild, something forbidden. And then he emerged, the Lycan prince. The gathering parted as if lightning had split it in two. His presence consumed the clearing like thunder echoing through valleys. Powerful shoulders gleamed beneath the midnight leather that molded to him like armor. His dark pants emphasized the predator's grace in every movement. His chest rose with silent strength, his aura thick enough to make lesser wolves submit without a word. His eyes, burning amber gold, swept across the ceremony like a hunter seeking quarry. And when they found her, everything stopped. Lyra's breath caught. His stare didn't glide past her like all the others. It seized, scorched, claimed. It was the kind of look that laid her soul bare. The kind that made her pulse race between humiliation and desperate longing. For an instant, she swore his pupils flared as though his beast stirred wildly within him. Murmurs hissed around them. Why her? She's nothing. An Omega forsaken. But the Lycan prince didn't flinch, his mouth curved, not into a smile, but into a vow. A dangerous, claiming vow. He stepped forward, each stride heavy with authority. Lyra's legs trembled as he stopped before her, towering close enough that his scent wrapped around her. Dark cedar, lightning, and something purely masculine. Her body betrayed her, shaking, burning with a fire she had never known. He leaned closer, his breath caressing her ear, low enough only she could hear. One touch from me, little Omega, and you'll never be mocked again. Her heart raced so violently she thought she might faint. His words were both damnation and salvation. Then he turned, his voice booming through the crowd, a command impossible to refuse. Tonight she belongs to me. Gasps erupted. Shock, fury, envy. Her world spun, tilting as 100 stares burned into her. Shame warred with the wildfire spreading in her chest. And as the crimson moon blazed red above them, Lyra realized her life had just shattered or begun. His hand closed around hers, strong and unrelenting, pulling her into the darkness of his domain where no Omega had ever returned unchanged. Chapter 2. The Prince's Chambers. The world blurred as his grip pulled her through the stunned crowd. Every step thundered with dominance, every stride echoing his absolute authority. Lyra stumbled to keep pace, her hand lost in his, the heat of his skin burning her palm. The whispers behind her were daggers, jealous, hateful, disbelieving. But none dared challenge his command. The massive doors of the stronghold crashed open. The great hall, lit by chandeliers dripping with crimson light, fell into silence. Courtiers and guards stared as the Lycan prince dragged the forsaken Omega toward the throne. She wanted to disappear, to vanish. But his presence held her upright, anchored in his shadow. Her heart hammered in her chest as he released her only to turn and face his court. His voice was dark silk over steel. She belongs to me. The words rang like law, sharp and merciless. The hall stirred with unease, envy, and hunger. Some laughed at the absurdity. An Omega forsaken, claimed by the prince. Others bowed, wary of the fury burning in his eyes. Lyra stood trembling, breath shallow, as the weight of his declaration sank in. He didn't lead her to the throne. Instead, he pulled her past it toward the shadowed corridor where only royalty walked, his chambers. Her body shook as the doors closed behind them, cutting away the world. Silence pressed heavy, broken only by the crackle of fire in the hearth. She could barely breathe as he turned to her, eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. Instead of scorn, there was hunger. Worship, as though he'd discovered forbidden treasure. Do you know what it means, little Omega? He murmured, stalking closer. When a Lycan prince chooses you? She couldn't speak, only shake her head as her back met the carved stone of the chamber wall. "It means," he growled softly, his hand bracing beside her head, "you belong to me." His scent enveloped her, sharp cedar and lightning dragging heat through her veins. His gaze dropped to her throat where her pulse fluttered wildly, then rose again to her lips. The closeness made her dizzy. Every inch of him radiated dominance, danger, and temptation. His thumb traced her jaw, slow, deliberate. Her body betrayed her, leaning into his touch, her thighs pressing together, her breath catching. "I should claim you tonight," he whispered, his lips brushing her ear, sending fire down her spine. But he leaned in, his teeth grazing the soft skin of her neck, just enough to make her gasp, just enough to ignite a storm inside her. His mouth lingered there, his breath hot against her skin. "I'll wait until the crimson moon fades. Until you beg for me." Her knees weakened, her entire body trembling, torn between fear and an ache she didn't understand. Then he pressed his lips lightly to her throat, just over the frantic beat of her pulse. His fangs grazed her, not piercing, just promising. A mark, soft but scorching, bloomed under his mouth. When he pulled back, her neck burned as though claimed. His amber eyes locked onto hers, molten and wild. "Before dawn," he vowed, his voice low and unshakable, "I will finish what I started." The chamber doors slammed open. Another wolf, kneeling, breathless, shouting, "Your Highness, she is not who you think she is." Chapter 3, Hidden Truths. The doors crashed open, the echo rattling the chamber's silence. Lyra flinched, her back pressed against the wall, her neck still burning where his lips had branded her. Darius Lycan, Prince, Predator, Storm, turned slowly toward the intruder. His amber eyes gleamed like fire over oil, cold and merciless. A wolf knelt, chest heaving, blood smeared across his jaw. "Your Highness," he gasped, forehead pressed to the floor. "She is not who you think she is." Lyra's heart slammed against her ribs. "Not who he thinks her." The prince's growl rolled low, rattling through the chamber like thunder. He stepped forward, shielding her in one effortless motion, his towering form a wall of heat and menace. "You dare interrupt me." His voice was lethal silk, promise and threat entwined. The wolf trembled. "Forgive me, sire, but the girl—" "Leave," Darius snapped. His command split the air, sharp as a blade. The messenger scrambled, slamming the door behind him, leaving only smoke, silence, and the pounding of Lyra's pulse. Her breath came ragged, her chest rising and falling as she tried to find words. What did he mean? "Not who you think." His head tilted, slow, predatory. "Does it matter?" She stiffened as he prowled closer again, every step pressing her further into the shadows, back against the carved wall. His scent enveloped her, cedar and lightning, warm and wild, and her body betrayed her, arching subtly toward him, even as fear curled inside her belly. "You think I chose you by mistake?" he murmured, his voice low, velvet and ruin. One hand lifted, fingers brushing her jaw, trailing down the frantic beat of her pulse. Her skin burned under the simple touch, fire racing through her veins. She swallowed hard. "I don't understand why you chose me at all." A dangerous smile curved his mouth. "Because I can smell the truth under your skin." He leaned closer, his lips brushing her ear, his breath molten. "Your innocence tempts me, but what hides beneath tempts me more." Her body shivered, trapped between terror and longing. His hand slid lower, settling just above her waist, holding her there with effortless dominance. "Darius." His name broke from her lips before she could stop it, a whisper threaded with desperation. He stilled. Then his mouth lowered, barely grazing hers, a breath away from a kiss. His thumb stroked her bottom lip and her whole body leaned into him, craving, breaking, surrendering. "You're afraid," he said softly, teasing as though her trembling was a game. "But you want me. Say it." She shook her head, but her lips parted, betraying her. Her breath hitched, her thighs pressing together as heat consumed her. His eyes darkened, wolf and man both aching for her submission. Her resistance cracked. A soft, strangled sound escaped her as her hands clutched his chest, pulling him closer. His lips claimed hers, hungry, searing, commanding. The kiss consumed her, left her gasping, fire flooding her veins as though she'd been waiting her whole life for this moment. Every barrier she'd clung to burned away, her body melting into his, yielding under his dominance. When his mouth tore from hers, trailing down her throat, she heard her own voice, broken, breathless, pleading, "Please." The Lycan prince's fangs grazed her skin, his growl vibrating against her pulse. He pulled back only enough to whisper against her neck, voice raw with hunger. One night won't be enough. Her eyes widened as his teeth pressed harder, the sting of a claim brushing her skin. Then the chamber door shook violently. Someone pounding from the other side, shouting, "Lycan Prince, they're coming for her." Chapter 4. Battle for the Omega. The chamber door rattled under a heavy blow. Voices on the other side barking Darius's name. "Lycan Prince, they're coming for her." Lyra froze, the echo of the warning vibrating through her bones. Before fear could twist her stomach tighter, Darius moved, his body tense, wolf shimmering under his skin, every inch of him bristling with violence. "Stay behind me," he commanded, his tone sharp as steel. The doors burst inward with a thunderous crack, splinters scattering like sparks. Warriors spilled into the chamber, eyes blazing, teeth bared, their snarls echoing against the carved stone walls. They came for her. Lyra's back hit the wall as instinct screamed at her to flee. But before her terror could take root, Darius shifted into motion. He didn't step. He prowled forward like a storm unleashed. The first wolf lunged. Darius met him midair, his claws ripping across the warrior's chest in one savage strike. Blood sprayed, the scent iron rich and primal, and the body crashed lifeless to the floor. Lyra gasped, clutching her chest. She should have been horrified, but the sight of him, the Lycan Prince fighting for her, ignited something dark, wild, and forbidden in her core. "Mine," Darius growled, his voice vibrating with feral authority. Two more attacked at once. He twisted, caught one by the throat, and slammed him into the stone pillar until his neck snapped with a sickening crack. The second barely had time to cry out before Darius's claws pierced his ribs, ripping free with a snarl. Lyra trembled, her breath ragged, caught between terror and something far more dangerous. Desire. His dominance was terrifying, yes, but also intoxicating. He fought like a god of blood and fury, and she couldn't look away. Darius turned toward her, chest heaving, his bare torso streaked with crimson, amber eyes burning. For a heartbeat, the violence melted into something else. Need. The kind of need that went deeper than lust, heavier than possession. He stalked toward her, towering and feral, until his body caged hers against the wall. His hands slammed beside her head, claws retracting, but the heat of his power still burned her skin. "Do you see what happens to anyone who tries to take you from me?" His voice was dark velvet, his breath hot against her lips. "You are mine." Her pulse pounded wildly, her body betraying her fear with aching surrender. "Darius." He seized her chin, tilting her face up to him. His mouth claimed hers savagely, blood and hunger and fire mingling into a kiss that ripped the breath from her lungs. She whimpered against him, her body melting even as his dominance threatened to consume her whole. When his lips tore away, he buried his face against her neck, inhaling deeply, growling low as though fighting himself. His teeth grazed her pulse, sharper this time, his control unraveling. "Darius." She pressed harder, the sting of a bite making her gasp, her fingers clutching his shoulders. His body shook, every muscle taut, his wolf pressing closer to the surface. "Say it," he demanded, his voice broken, ragged with restraint. "Say you're mine." Her lips parted, trembling. "I'm yours." The words shattered him. His growl erupted, vibrating through her chest as his fangs sank lightly into her skin. Heat exploded inside her, fire coursing through every vein, her body trembling with pleasure and pain entwined. The chamber filled with the sound of his low, primal groan, his wolf surging forward in raw possession, and then a howl ripped from his throat, echoing through the night, powerful enough to shake the chamber walls. It wasn't just dominance. It wasn't just lust. It was recognition. His wolf howled again, louder, resonating deep into her very bones, as though declaring not just a claim, but a mate. Lyra's eyes widened, horror and awe crashing together as the mark on her neck pulsed with impossible heat. Chapter 5. The Bond Awakens. The howl still echoed in the depths of Lyra's chest long after his fangs left her skin. Her pulse throbbed against the tender mark on her neck, burning as though etched in fire. Darius hovered above her, chest heaving, amber eyes burning with something too wild to name. Mate. The word wasn't spoken, but she felt it thrumming in her veins, whispering through the bond his wolf had just awakened. Her lips trembled, torn between denial and the aching truth that her body already knew. "Darius," she whispered, the name breaking like glass on her tongue. He pressed his forehead to hers, breath ragged, his voice low. "You're not leaving me, Lyra." Not after this, not ever. Her heart jolted at the possessiveness laced in his words. She should have screamed, pushed him away, reminded him she was nothing more than the Omega mocked by her pack. Instead, shame tangled with desire until she couldn't tell them apart. His scent clung to her skin, cedar, lightning, and blood seared into her lungs like addiction. But outside, chaos stirred. His howl had carried far beyond the stone chamber, through the night, across the court, into the ears of every wolf in the kingdom. They would know. They would whisper. Some would rage. Others would challenge. The Lycan prince had claimed a forsaken Omega in the way only a mate could. Her breath stuttered as realization struck. Bound. The words seared into her chest like a brand. Darius's touch softened. One large hand cupping her face as if she were porcelain he refused to break. For a heartbeat, his ruthless, princely mask cracked, revealing something raw beneath it. Need, fear, hunger. But morning bled into the horizon, golden light spilling across the chamber, illuminating the evidence of their night. The bruises, the tangled sheets, her swollen lips, the mark glowing faintly on her neck. She wrapped her arms around herself, shivering, not from cold, but from the weight of what had just been unleashed. He should cast her aside. That's what princes did. But when she dared meet his gaze, she found no dismissal in his eyes, only a fierce hunger that had only grown sharper with dawn. "You'll stay," he said simply, his voice dark velvet wrapped around iron. Lyra's lips parted, but no words came. She wanted to argue, to remind him she was nothing, to beg him not to bind her fate to his. Yet the bond pulsed again, hot and undeniable, betraying her heart with every beat. The door crashed open. The air shifted colder, sharper, laced with the kind of authority even Darius didn't command. A tall figure swept in, robes flowing like shadows dragged through the light. Her crown gleamed as her eyes, icy and furious, fixed on Lyra, the Queen Mother. Her voice was venom wrapped in silk, sharp enough to cut the air itself. "What?" she hissed, each word deliberate. "Have you done, Darius? You dare mark an Omega?" Lyra's breath caught, her body trembling beneath the Queen Mother's glare, the bond burning hot against her skin as though mocking her shame. The Queen Mother now knows. Her fury threatens not only Lyra's place in Darius's bed, but her very life. Because Omegas are not meant to be princesses. Chapter 6, The Trial. The Queen Mother's words lashed the chamber like a whip. The heavy silence that followed was suffocating, broken only by the rasp of Darius's breath and Lyra's pounding heart. "She is an Omega," the Queen Mother spat, each syllable dripping with disdain. "A plaything at best, a liability at worst. And you dare mark her as if she were worthy." Lyra flinched, shame burning hot in her chest. Her eyes dropped to the floor, but Darius's growl thundered through the chamber, low and dangerous. "She is mine," he snarled, his wolf bleeding through his voice. "Touch her and you'll answer to me." Guards, courtiers, and advisors gathered like vultures drawn by the stench of scandal. Whispers spread like wildfire. The Omega has bewitched the prince. The Forsaken One has lured him to ruin. Lyra felt their stares pierce her skin like knives. Mockery she could endure. Pity she had survived. But this storm of hatred and judgment was unbearable. Her trembling fingers found the mark at her throat, the burning reminder of what had happened between them. The Queen Mother raised her voice, sharp as steel. "By law she must be tried before the court. If she has bewitched you, Darius, it must be undone. For the sake of the crown, she must be banished." "No." Darius's voice was lethal finality. The trial was swift, merciless. In the grand court hall, surrounded by wolves in ceremonial robes, Lyra stood alone. Questions turned to accusations. Accusations twisted into poison. She seduced him. She is a danger to the throne. She's tainted his rule. Each word cut deeper than the last. Her knees weakened, but before she fell, Darius was there, a wall of iron at her side. His hand gripped hers, public, defiant, intimate in a way that silenced the room. "Enough," he thundered. "She is not your scapegoat. She is mine, and I will not release her." Gasps rippled through the hall. The Queen Mother's eyes narrowed to slits, fury radiating off her. "Your obsession will destroy you," she warned. Lyra looked up at him, her lips parting in shock. Obsession. The word felt too dangerous, too intoxicating, because when she met his gaze, she saw it there, an untamed hunger that no law could smother. His protectiveness had sharpened into something darker, something terrifyingly irresistible. That night, after the trial, Darius carried her back to his chambers. His touch was gentler than his rage, but the fire in his eyes had only grown. He kissed her as though to brand her all over again, as though to remind her that nothing and no one could take her from him. The pack called her temptress, cursed her name, but in his arms she was forbidden treasure. And yet, as moonlight spilled across her body while she slept, something stirred. Her skin shimmered faintly, a glow spreading from her collarbone to the mark at her neck. Her breath hitched in her sleep, fingers twitching, as though her body was answering a call older than desire itself. Lyra awakens under the moonlight, her body glowing faintly. A power neither she nor Darius can explain. One that could shift the fate of Chapter 7, The Awakening. The glow spread like liquid fire across her skin, painting Lyra in a silver aura that pulsed with each breath. Moonlight wrapped her like a second skin. So bright Darius thought the goddess herself had descended into his chambers. His chest tightened, his omega. No, not just an omega. Something more. He reached out, trembling fingers brushing her collarbone. The warmth seared his palm, not painful but consuming. Her body shifted beneath his touch, back arching in a slow, sensual curve, lips parting with a sigh that was half dream, half temptation. Lyra, his voice cracked, equal parts reverence and hunger. What are you becoming? Her eyes fluttered open, glowing faintly. Silver threaded into the darkness of her irises. He froze, torn between awe and dread. Omegas did not glow. Omegas did not shimmer under the moon like sacred fire. But she was not just Omega anymore. Darius, she whispered, her voice softer, richer, as if the moon itself lent her tongue its power. Her hand cupped his jaw, the heat of her glow sinking into his bones. Don't look at me like I'm a monster. His heart thundered. He should have feared her. The pack already whispered that she was cursed, a danger to his throne. And yet his body betrayed him. He leaned into her, lips brushing the glow at her throat, drunk on the scent of her skin. You're not a monster, he growled against her pulse. You're mine. The moment ignited into fire. His mouth claimed hers. Desperate, ravenous. She melted beneath him, the glow flickering brighter with every kiss, every gasp. The more he touched her, the stronger the light burned until it felt like the entire room was alive with her awakening power. But for Darius, the danger was not in her glow. It was in the way he was losing himself to it. His control slipped, instincts clawing for dominance. Claim her. Mark her again. Make her yours before the gods steal her away. He tore himself back with a ragged breath, fists clenching against the sheets. His wolf howled inside him, maddened. If I keep touching you, I won't stop, he warned, voice rough with restraint. Lyra's gaze locked on his, trembling but resolute. Then don't stop. The words shattered him. His chest heaved, his hunger darkening. But before he could surrender, a horn's blast echoed through the night. Loud, sharp, the signal of an intruder at the gates. The chamber doors crashed open. A figure strode in, tall, broad-shouldered, eyes blazing with challenge. Another prince, sent sharp and domineering, dripping with defiance. She doesn't belong to you alone, Darius, the rival growled, eyes sweeping over Lyra's glowing body like a prize already won. I claim the Omega. A rival prince steps forward, demanding Lyra for himself, challenging Darius's right before the kingdom. Chapter 8, The Challenge. The rival prince's challenge rang like thunder through the chamber. His growl was primal, deep, vibrating against the stone walls as if the castle itself trembled under his voice. Darius rose from the bed with lethal grace, his chest bare, his muscles taut beneath the sheen of moonlight. His wolf pressed at the surface, eyes already burning gold. A dangerous calm cloaked him, one that promised carnage. You dare step into my walls, my bedchamber, and stake a claim on what is mine? Darius's voice dropped into a savage rumble, his power radiating like a storm about to break. The rival smirked, unfazed, his gaze slithering back to Lyra, still glowing faintly on the sheets, trembling but transfixed. She's not just yours, Darius. You heard the whispers. She carries the moon's blessing, a cursed Omega. She belongs to whichever prince proves strong enough to hold her. Darius lunged. The clash was immediate, violent. Two predators colliding, claws and fists striking with bone-shattering force. The air vibrated with snarls and snapping jaws, the scent of blood already heavy in the chamber. Lyra's chest heaved as she pressed back against the wall, torn between fear and the magnetic pull of the mate bond. Her heart raced with Darius's, every blow he took echoing in her veins. She felt his rage, his possessive hunger, his terror of losing her. The duel spiraled. Chairs shattered, stone cracked, crimson streaked across marble floors. Darius's power was terrifying, his strikes relentless, his body moving with lethal precision. But she saw the danger, the way his amber eyes flickered red, his beast straining to take full control. And then he faltered. The rival slammed him against the wall, fangs bared, ready to pierce his throat. Lyra's scream cut through the chaos, the sound laced with power neither prince expected. The rival froze just long enough for Darius to twist free, his claws ripping across the intruder's chest. But Darius was gone to his wolf now, eyes wild, lips curling back in a snarl. His gaze darted to Lyra, not as a lover, not as a prince, but as a beast craving to claim. Mine, he growled, staggering toward her, blood dripping down his torso, chest heaving. Lyra's heart thundered, torn between terror and undeniable desire. He was magnificent, half man, half beast, her protector, her downfall. His scent wrapped around her, heady and intoxicating, making her thighs press together in confusion and need. She shook her head, backing up against the wall as his shadow loomed over her. Darius, stop. But he couldn't hear her. His wolf was winning. His claws dug into the wall beside her face, fangs glinting inches from her throat. She could feel his heat, his hunger, his need to mark her, to brand her body and soul forever. And then her instinct betrayed her. She stepped forward, threw herself against his chest, pressing her glow into his burning skin. His head dipped, mouth hovering at her throat, his breath scorching her pulse. His fangs grazed her delicate flesh, a feather-like scrape that made her gasp. Equal parts pain and exquisite pleasure. For a heartbeat, the world stilled. Blood, battle, desire, all tangled in one unbearable moment. Darius's fangs graze Lyra's throat as she throws herself into his arms. The bond teetering between salvation and ruin. Chapter 9, The Claiming. The world narrowed to his fangs grazing her throat. Then pain, sharp and sweet, bloomed as his teeth broke skin. Lyra gasped, her body arching against him in shock. Warm blood trickled, and Darius's lips sealed around the wound with a low primal growl that vibrated straight through her bones. The rival prince collapsed, half forgotten, writhing in his own wounds. But Darius didn't notice. He was locked on her, drinking in not just her blood, but her very essence. Heat roared through her veins. The glow under her skin flared, racing like wildfire, every nerve lit alive, every part of her body screaming in confusion. Fear tangled with a dark, devastating pleasure. Her hands gripped his shoulders, nails dragging across blood and muscle, not pushing him away, but pulling him closer. Darius, her voice cracked, half a whimper, half a plea. His amber eyes snapped open, molten and feral. He tore himself back, chest heaving, crimson staining his mouth, his wolf still prowling beneath his skin. But something else shimmered there too, reverence, hunger, a devotion that was almost unbearable. You're mine, he rasped, voice thick raw. No prince will ever touch you. No one will take you from me. Her knees weakened, heat pooling low in her belly. She should resist. She should run. Instead, she let him press her against the shattered wall, his body caging hers, his mouth crashing onto hers in a kiss that was fire and blood, desperate and consuming. Every touch sparked, his hands sliding down her waist, pulling her flush against him. The taste of her on his tongue drove him wild, and the taste of him filled her with an ache that made her tremble. Her body betrayed her, pressing into him, surrendering in ways her mind hadn't yet accepted. When his lips broke from hers, they trailed lower, across her jaw, back to the wound on her throat. Each lick sealed it, soothed it, marked it, and when his tongue brushed across her skin one last time, she felt it. The faint sting, then the burn like fire engraving itself into her flesh. Her breath caught. Her hand flew to her neck. The skin pulsed faintly, glowing in the shape of a mark that hadn't been there before. Her heart thundered. What have you done? Darius froze, his body still pressed against hers, his breath ragged. His amber eyes flickered with both triumph and fear. I couldn't stop, he confessed, voice low, reverent, guilty all at once. The bond, it's begun. Her pulse hammered against the mark, each throb tethering her closer to him, wrapping invisible chains around her heart. She could feel him, his hunger, his desperation, his need, as though his emotions were seeping into her veins. No, she whispered, trembling, half in denial, half in secret yearning. But the truth pulsed on her skin, undeniable. His bite wasn't just lust. It was a claim, a bond, a destiny she could never walk away from. Lyra stares in shock at the faint glowing mating mark seared onto her throat, realizing she may already belong to the Lycan prince forever. Chapter 10. The bond deepens. The mark still throbbed on her neck, hot beneath her trembling fingers. Lyra's wide eyes locked on Darius, but he didn't move away. He stood close, chest heaving, his amber gaze darkened with something more than lust, something possessive, dangerous. The air between them hummed. She could feel him. Every ripple of desire, every flicker of hunger. It wasn't imagined. It was the bond stitching their souls together. His need was hers. Her fear was his. And when he touched her wrist, gently guiding her hand down from her neck, the connection flared like fire through her veins. Her breath shuddered. "Darius," she whispered, his name falling from her lips like both a prayer and a curse. "Say it again," he demanded, voice low, velvet and steel. His hand slid along her arm, up her shoulder, until his palm rested against the faint glow of the mark. She trembled under the weight of his touch. "Say my name as if you belonged to me." Her lips parted, but before she could speak, his mouth claimed hers. The kiss was relentless, stealing the air from her lungs, melting her resistance until all that was left was raw need. His hands gripped her waist, pulling her flush against the hard lines of his body. Her pulse hammered, and though her mind screamed to resist, her body betrayed her, arching into him, clutching at his shoulders as though she'd drown without him. The palace chambers blurred, replaced by heat and breath and skin. His mouth left hers only to trail fire down her throat, fangs grazing the fresh mark. Each scrape sent lightning through her, a mixture of pain and ecstasy that had her gasping. Her knees threatened to buckle. "You feel it, don't you?" His voice was a growl against her skin, feral and certain. "The bond. You're mine now, no matter how much you fight it." Her nails raked across his chest, leaving red trails. Not to push him away, but to ground herself in the storm he was unraveling inside her. This shouldn't be happening," she whispered, even as her hips pressed against his. "But it is." His lips found hers again, softer now, reverent, almost desperate. "And it will consume us both." Every kiss deepened the truth. She couldn't escape him. Not his scent, not his touch, not the heat that bound them. He was in her blood now, his wolf wrapped around her soul like chains of fire. When at last he tore himself back, it wasn't out of mercy. It was control. Barely. His chest rose and fell in heavy breaths, his eyes still burning gold. "If I don't stop now, I won't be able to. And once I claim you fully," his voice cracked, the wolf bleeding through his tone, "there will be no undoing it." Lyra's lips trembled, still swollen from his kiss. Her body burned, every nerve screaming to surrender. Yet her mind reeled with terror. If she gave herself fully, she would never be free. She stumbled back, clutching the edge of the bed for support. But something on the carved wood caught her eye. Ancient etchings, faded but visible in the moonlight seeping through the balcony. Her breath hitched. Words, old, carved deep into the grain. She traced the letters with her fingertips, the script strangely familiar, almost as if it was waiting for her. Her pulse raced as the words formed in her mind. "The Omega who carries the light shall crown or break the Lycan prince." Her chest tightened, eyes widening in horror. Lyra stares at the hidden prophecy carved into the prince's bed, realizing her bond with Darius isn't just lust or accident. It is destiny that could either make or destroy him. Chapter 11. The Temptation. The prophecy still burned in her mind as she lay restless in the prince's chambers, the faint sting of his mark pulsing at her neck. Darius's scent lingered on her skin, wild, intoxicating, inescapable. She should have hated him, but instead she craved him like air. Yet whispers in the corridor spoke louder than her desire. Whispers of resentment, of rebellion. The court's women hissed her name as though it were filth. The Omega who ensnared the prince. And then, like a shadow slipping through the cracks, came the offer. "You don't have to be his prisoner." The voice was honey and venom, soft in her ear as she walked alone through the gardens. A hooded figure emerged from the moonlight hedges, their eyes gleaming with calculated intent. "There are those who would protect you, give you freedom from the Lycan prince." Lyra froze, her heart slamming against her ribs. Freedom. The word clawed at her chest, a temptation sharper than any blade. Yet behind her ribs, the bond pulsed, reminding her of the heat in Darius's touch, the way his wolf had nearly broken at the thought of losing her. She whispered, "Who sent you?" The figure only smiled. "Someone who knows what he's taken from you. Someone who will set you free." Her breath shuddered. She should have run. She should have screamed. Instead, she listened. That night, As the prince was called to council, she slipped away from the palace walls, guided by the stranger's hand. Every step felt like treason, every beat of her heart echoing with Darius's name. But the deeper they went, the more wrong it felt. The air turned heavy. Her limbs grew sluggish, her vision swimming. Her knees buckled. Fingers clawed at her throat. Poison. No worse. A drug seeping through her veins, stripping her will. She tried to cry out, but her voice cracked. The bond flared with warning, Darius's wolf echoing faintly in her chest as if he felt her slipping away. The last thing she saw before darkness swallowed her was the gleam of another crest, the sigil of a rival prince house etched in silver. When she woke, the world was blurred, her body weak, her wrists bound in silk. Candles flickered in the corners of the chamber, throwing shadows across a vast bed draped in crimson. And on the edge of it, watching her with a predator's grin, was a man she did not know, but whose presence reeked of danger. His eyes glowed the same wild amber as Darius's, but colder, crueler. "Welcome, little Omega," he purred, rising slowly, his form towering, imposing. His hand trailed along the sheets, claiming the space where she lay helpless. "You should have been mine from the beginning." Her blood turned to ice. Drugged, weakened, and bound, Lyra realizes she has been delivered into the bed of the rival prince, his intent written in the hunger of his eyes. Chapter 12. The Rival's Trap. Her wrists still burned from the silk bonds, her body betraying her in ways her mind screamed against. The rival prince circled her like a wolf with prey already cornered. His presence was suffocating, heat radiating, his scent musky and dark, designed to unravel her. "You wake for him still, don't you?" he murmured, fingers grazing her chin, forcing her to meet his burning gaze. "The great Lycan prince marked you. But his claim doesn't erase what you are, an Omega born to yield." His words slithered into her, scraping at the cracks in her defenses. Every instinct demanded she recoil. Yet her body betrayed her. Her skin prickling, her pulse hammering, her thighs trembling at his nearness. "No," she whispered, though it sounded weak even to her. He leaned closer, his breath ghosting her lips. "You taste of rebellion and ruin. I could make you forget him. I could make you mine in ways he never dared." His hand trailed lower, hovering just above her bodice, the heat of his palm making her arch back against the bed in panic and shame. Lyra squeezed her eyes shut, fighting the haze. Somewhere deep inside, the bond pulsed. Darius's mark burning against her skin, her wolf stirred, clawing in protest, and then she felt it. The bond snapped taut as though a chain had yanked between them. Darius's rage surged through her veins, raw and feral, making her gasp aloud. The rival prince smirked, mistaking her cry. "Ah, there it is, longing." His lips brushed her jaw, a mockery of tenderness. "Yield to me and I'll let you live. Refuse and he will die." But the walls trembled before her answer could form. A howl shattered the night. Not a sound of hunting, not even of war, but of possession, fury, and a promise of blood. The rival prince froze, his amber eyes narrowing as the chamber doors burst open. Darius stood in the frame, chest heaving, his shirt torn and streaked with crimson, his eyes glowed molten, his wolf fully risen. The very air bowed beneath his presence. "Get away from her." His voice was gravel and thunder, barely human. The rival prince chuckled, though his grip on Lyra's jaw tightened. So the great prince comes crawling, led by his leash. But Darius didn't speak again. He moved faster than sight, faster than breath, tearing through guards as though they were nothing but parchment. Bones cracked, blood sprayed, and the chamber became a slaughterhouse painted in red. Lyra's heart pounded, torn between horror and salvation as she watched him. This wasn't the calm, calculated prince she had known. This was the beast unleashed, every strike driven by the mate bond's fury. And yet, when his blazing eyes met hers across the carnage, they softened for a single heartbeat. Just long enough to remind her he wasn't just fighting as a prince, he was fighting as hers. Darius storms into the chamber, drenched in blood and rage, killing everyone in his path, leaving only the rival prince standing. The true battle moments away. Chapter 13. The Final Battle. The chamber was a battlefield of broken bodies, the air thick with iron and smoke. Only two predators remained standing, Darius and the rival prince, both heaving, both blazing with the power of their wolves. Lyra's wrists trembled in their bindings, her throat raw from screaming, but her eyes never left Darius. Blood streaked across his chest, his muscles flexing with every breath. He was drenched in savagery, unhinged, and yet every ounce of him was hers. The rival prince laughed, a cruel echoing sound. "Look at you, prince, reduced to a beast for a whimpering Omega." Darius's lips peeled back in a snarl, fangs bared. "She's not an Omega. She's mine." Then he lunged. They collided in the center of the chamber, claws ripping, fangs flashing, the impact shaking the stone floor. Their wolves roared through them, primal energy clashing like thunder. Darius drove his rival back against a pillar, smashing stone as he tried to tear his throat out. But the rival was no weakling. He twisted, slammed Darius down, and their fight became a blur of violence. Lyra's heart pounded as she watched, torn between terror and arousal. The sight of Darius, every muscle taut, every strike fueled by their bond, was devastating. She could feel his desperation through the mark on her neck, every blow carrying not just rage, but the promise that he would kill or die for her. Then it happened. A figure emerged from the shadows, a corded visor, one of Darius's own, clad in royal colors. His dagger gleamed as he shouted, "The prince is weak. The throne belongs to strength." And without hesitation, he plunged the blade into Darius's side. "No!" Lyra screamed, the sound ripping from her throat. Darius staggered, blood blooming against his ribs. The rival prince grinned, pressing the advantage, his claws slicing across Darius's chest. For a moment, the prince faltered, collapsing to one knee, his breaths ragged. But the bond saved him. Lyra felt it snap tight again, raw and burning, her wolf crying out for him. Darius's gaze met hers, wild, desperate, yet steady. The beast inside him roared, refusing to yield. With one brutal surge, he tore free of the dagger still lodged in his flesh and drove his claws deep into his rival's chest, sending blood spraying across the chamber. The rival howled, staggering back, but Darius was relentless. Blow after blow, strike after strike until his enemy crumpled, broken at his feet. The traitor backed away in terror. But Darius's strength was spent, his chest heaved, his skin pale, blood running in rivers down his body. Slowly, almost reverently, he turned to her, and as if every ounce of fury had drained from him, he stumbled forward, collapsing into her arms. "Lyra!" His voice was broken, his breath shallow. His blood smeared her silver gown, searing her skin. His body trembled, heavy against hers. She clutched him, her tears falling hot onto his face, her voice breaking. "Stay with me. Please stay." But his eyes fluttered shut. Darius collapses in Lyra's arms, gravely wounded, leaving her to face the aftermath with enemies still watching and his life hanging by a thread. Chapter 14. The Healing Touch. "Darius, stay with me," Lyra whispered, her voice trembling as she lowered his limp body onto the silken sheets of the chamber. His blood soaked into her gown, streaking her skin. He was pale, his breaths ragged, and for the first time since she had met him, the Lycan prince looked mortal. Her hands shook as she pressed cloth to his wound, trying to stop the crimson flow. Every touch seemed to sting him, yet he never pulled away. His gaze, heavy-lidded but unbroken, clung to her face. "You should have let me go," she murmured, tears slipping free. "You nearly died because of me." His lips curled into the faintest shadow of a smile. "For you, I would die 1,000 times." The words shattered her restraint. She bent closer, brushing damp strands of hair from his forehead, her breath ghosting over his skin. The bond between them throbbed hot and alive, pulling her to him as though their bodies had no choice but to close the space between them. When his hand, trembling but determined, caught hers and pulled it to his chest, she felt the unsteady beat of his heart. That sound, weak, defiant, drove her mad with both fear and desire. "You're mine," he rasped, his voice broken yet commanding. "Even if the world burns, you are mine." Her protest died on her lips when he surged forward, capturing her mouth with his. It wasn't gentle. It was raw, desperate. A kiss born of survival and obsession. She melted into him, her body trembling as his lips devoured her, as if he feared he'd never taste her again. Her hands slid across his chest, over the bruises and scars, feeling the ridges of his strength beneath his fragility. His blood marked her, smeared across her gown, her skin, and still she pressed closer. The kiss deepened, and with it her fear dissolved into hunger. She tugged at the sheets, at the barriers between them until his body pressed against hers, heat searing her veins. Their breaths tangled, mingling with the scent of blood and salt of him. "Darius," she gasped, her voice breaking as his mouth trailed down her neck, fangs grazing the mark he had left before. Sparks shot through her, her body arching, surrendering. Even wounded, his dominance wrapped around her like chains. But it wasn't control. It was need, mutual, frantic, undeniable. He moved as if to remind her he was still prince, still hers, even at his weakest. And when he finally pressed her down beneath him, trembling yet unrelenting, she gave herself to him completely. There was no shame, no fear, only fire. The room filled with the sounds of their union, of two souls claiming, clinging, burning together. And then her body lit. A surge of heat raced through her veins, her skin glowing faintly, a silver-white aura blooming beneath him. Darius froze, his eyes widening in awe and terror as he pulled back just enough to see her illuminated against the sheets. "Lyra!" His voice cracked, reverent and afraid all at once. She looked down at her glowing skin, her chest rising and falling with ragged breaths. The light pulsed brighter with every touch, with every desperate kiss until it spilled across both of them like moonlight made flesh. Her body glows beneath him. A surge of strange power awakened by their union, leaving Darius stunned, caught between worship and fear of what she is becoming. Chapter 15. The Oracle's Revelation. Darius's weight still pressed over her, his chest rising in heavy breaths when the glow flooding from her skin began to dim. He stared down at her as though he were staring at something holy, something forbidden, his bloodied hands trembling as they caressed her cheek. "You're not just an Omega," he whispered, his voice breaking under the weight of awe and fear. "You're something more." Lyra's own hands shook as she looked at her glowing skin, the silver shimmer still dancing faintly along her collarbone. She should have been terrified. Instead, she felt fire, power, a pulse in her blood that matched his heartbeat, yet stretched beyond it, ancient, primal, commanding. Before she could speak, the chamber doors burst open. Torches flared, shadows cutting across the stone walls as the oracle entered, her cloak dragging like spilled ink across the floor. Guards tried to bar her path, but one flick of her hand silenced them, her glowing eyes fixed on Lyra. "So it is true," the oracle murmured, her voice echoing like 1,000 whispers layered over one another. "The bloodline stirs again." Darius growled low, half shielding Lyra behind him, even wounded. "Speak plainly, witch." The oracle ignored him. She stepped closer, her gaze pinning Lyra like a dagger. "Child, you carry the blood of the first Luna, the mother of our kind. Her power sleeps in your veins, waiting to crown or consume. You are not an accident. You are prophecy." Lyra's breath caught. Her heart pounded as fragments of memory surfaced. Her mother's warnings, the way the moonlight always seemed to cling to her skin, the shame she bore as the forsaken Omega no one wanted. She was never unwanted. She was hidden. Darius's fingers dug into her hip as though to anchor himself. "What does this mean for her?" he demanded. The oracle's mouth curved in a grim smile. "It means she is destined to decide the fate of the Lycan line, to stand beside the Lycan prince as his Luna." The oracle's decree still echoed in the chamber. Lyra's skin still glowed faintly, moonlight dancing across her as though the heavens themselves had marked her. Darius's grip on her waist tightened, his body trembling with a need far deeper than desire. It was possession, obsession, an instinct carved into his very bones. His eyes, dark and blazing, never left hers. "You are mine," he rasped, his lips grazing her temple, his breath hot against her ear. "Prophecy or not, Luna or curse, you belong to me." Lyra's chest rose and fell in sharp, uneven breaths. The bond between them burned, every heartbeat syncing with his, every nerve screaming for him. But beneath the heat was terror, of destiny, of chains, of what it meant to be bound to the Lycan prince. Before she could speak, a cry rang through the palace corridors. Torches flared, shadows shifted, and then the smell hit, acrid, metallic, laced with death. Poison. The door splintered open. Assassins in black burst through. Blades gleamed under torchlight. Vials of sickly green liquid clutched in their hands. They weren't after Darius. Their eyes locked on her. "Get behind me." Darius snarled, his beast erupting to the surface. His claws ripped free, his growl shaking the stone walls. He tore into the first attacker, blood spraying across the chamber like a crimson storm. But one slipped past. Too fast. Too close. Lyra gasped as a dagger bit into her side, the venom burning like fire racing through her veins. She screamed, collapsing against Darius's chest as the blade was torn free. No! Darius's roar split the night. His claws shredded the assassin, but he barely noticed. His focus was only her, trembling, her blood staining his hands, her lips paling as the poison surged deeper. Her eyes fluttered. "Darius, don't speak," he growled, his voice breaking as he gathered her into his arms. His beast howled, his soul shattering. He could not lose her. Desperation carved into him. There was only one way to save her, only one bond strong enough to drive out death itself. He pressed his forehead to hers, his voice raw. "Forgive me, but I won't let you go." His fangs sank deep into her neck, right over the faint mark he'd once left. The mate bond ignited, searing, scorching, branding them both. Power thundered through the chamber, rattling stone, cracking torches from their sconces. Lyra's scream tore from her throat, half agony, half ecstasy, as the bond locked, as her body convulsed against his, as the venom was ripped from her veins and replaced with his fire. Her blood sang, her skin glowed, and her eyes rolled back as the world shattered around her. Darius clutched her, panting, his lips stained with her blood. His entire body shook as the bond sealed, burning itself into eternity. Her body went limp in his arms, silent. "Lyra, no." His voice cracked, his beast clawing to the surface. He shook her, kissed her, begged her. "Stay with me." And then her chest arched. Her eyes snapped open. Not human, not mortal. They glowed. Pure silver, radiant, terrifying. The Omega was gone. What rose before him was something older, wilder, more powerful than prophecy had ever dared whisper. She awakens fully mated, her eyes glowing with unearthly light, her voice not entirely her own as she whispers his name. Chapter 16. The Luna's Power. The world still trembled from the aftermath of their bond. The air was heavy with smoke, sweat, and the copper tang of blood. Darius's chest heaved as he cradled her. But the moment Lyra's glowing eyes met his, something inside him snapped. Not just relief, not just triumph, possession. "Mine," he growled, his lips crushing against hers, his kiss devouring her like he needed to taste her soul to believe she was alive. Lyra gasped into him, her hands clutching his blood-slicked shoulders. The bond pulsed between them, scorching, relentless. Every brush of skin sent waves of heat down their spines. The venom was gone, burned away by his claim. What replaced it was fire, her veins alight with raw, intoxicating power. She arched against him, her body trembling as the mate bond consumed them both. Clothes tore, chains of restraint, fear, shame, doubt shattered. The bed frame cracked against the wall as he drove her down into the silken sheets, his body caging hers. His dominance absolute yet trembling with worship. His lips trailed fire down her throat, stopping at the fresh bond mark, his tongue tasting her there, making her writhe with unbearable need. "Feel it," he rasped, voice breaking as the room pulsed with their joined energy. Every scream, every moan mine. Lyra's eyes flickered silver as she cried out, her back arching in a wave of heat that rattled the very stones. The palace itself seemed to thrum with their union, chandeliers swaying, torches bursting higher, as if the fire inside them demanded the world bear witness. The bond was more than flesh, more than lust. It was power. Their wolves howled in unison, ethereal, primal, their voices overlapping in the night. Darius clutched her tighter. Every thrust a vow, every kiss a chain he refused to ever break. And still beneath the pleasure, beneath the unshakable pull, was fear. Her power wasn't only binding to him. It was spilling outward, wild, dangerous. By the time dawn broke, the palace reeked of sex, smoke, and magic. Servants whispered outside the chamber, too afraid to step inside. When Darius finally tore himself from her side to meet his generals, his chest still glistened with her touch, his scent heavy on her skin, but the room was cold with judgment. The oldest general bowed low, but did not hide the steel in his voice. "My prince, forgive me, but the Omega is no longer just yours. She is a weapon." Another growled agreement. "Power like that cannot be controlled. She could undo us all." Their words rang heavy, poisoning the air. Darius's jaw tightened, his beast snarling to life. "She is mine. Speak against her again, and you'll bleed for it." But Lyra, still glowing faintly behind him, heard it all. Their fear, their whispers, their condemnation. Her lips trembled as her gaze locked with his back. If even his generals feared her, how long before Darius himself would? The generals kneel as one delivers the final blow. For the safety of the pack, the girl must not live. Chapter 17. Power Unleashed. Silence crashed over the war room. The general's words still hung like blades in the air. The girl must not live. Darius's growl shook the stone walls, his claws extended, his wolf pushing forward with lethal intent. You dare speak of killing her in my presence? His voice was thunder, his fury a living storm. But before he could strike, before his rage could rip apart the men who questioned her, the air itself bent. Lyra gasped, her chest arching as light burst from her skin. Silver and crimson veins pulsed beneath her flesh, a radiant glow flooding the chamber. Her eyes, no longer human, gleamed with lunar fire. The general staggered back. One dropped to his knees. Another fought against it, body trembling as if bound by invisible chains. Within moments, every wolf present, save Darius, was forced to bow. Not by choice, by instinct. A low collective whimper filled the room. Their bodies resisted, but their wolves had already surrendered. Moon Luna, one whispered hoarsely, forehead pressed to the cold floor. Lyra stood, her gown slipping from one shoulder, her hair a wild halo of fire and shadow. Her breathing was ragged, her skin slick from the mate bond heat still clinging to her. She hadn't meant to command them. She hadn't even spoken. Yet her very existence demanded obedience. Darius turned, his chest heaving, eyes locked on her as though she were a miracle and a curse all at once. His wolf purred, ready to kneel with the others, but Darius fought it, baring his teeth to resist. He would never bow, not even to the mate who had just become more than any Omega should be. Lyra's hand trembled as she lifted it, watching light curl from her fingertips. It was beautiful, terrifying, intoxicating. She could feel their submission, tasted like honey and ash. A shiver ran down her spine, not of fear, but of something darker. Power. Darius stepped forward, seizing her wrist, forcing her to meet his burning gaze. "Careful, little Omega," he rasped, his voice thick with desire and warning. "Power like this, once it consumes you, it never lets go." Their bond flared, heat and dominance colliding between them, raw and steamy, even in the heart of danger. She swayed into him, lips parting as though she'd drown if she didn't taste him again. But then the torches guttered, the air turned cold. Shadows slithered across the chamber, thick and suffocating. A voice cut through the silence, low and venomous, echoing from the very stones. "My child." Lyra froze. The glow in her veins faltered, her body trembling as the shadows coalesced into form. A tall figure stepped forward from the darkness, his cloak woven from smoke, his eyes burning crimson. The generals gasped in terror, bowing lower. Darius pulled Lyra behind him, his wolf bristling, teeth bared. "Who dares?" The man's lips curved into a cruel smile. "I dare, Lycan Prince, because she is mine. Her blood is mine." Lyra's heart stuttered as his gaze fell on her, hungry and claiming. "Daughter." The chamber erupts in chaos as the ancient enemy, her true father, steps fully into the light, declaring he has come to reclaim her blood and throne. Chapter 18, Blood and Shadows. The word hung in the air like a curse. "Daughter." Lyra's pulse thundered in her ears. The chamber seemed to tilt, spinning around the shadowed figure who now stood tall and unyielding, his crimson eyes locked on hers with an intimacy that felt wrong, invasive, and inevitable all at once. Darius shoved her behind him, muscles taut, his chest bare and still slick from their earlier fevered union. His wolf prowled under his skin, claws tearing at the seams of his restraint. "You are no father. You're a phantom that should have stayed buried." The man laughed, a sound like blades scraping stone. "And yet here I stand while you, Lycan Prince, kneel before the inevitable. My blood runs in her veins. She is mine, not yours. The mate bond will wither in time. Blood is eternal." Lyra staggered back, clutching the wall. Her body still glowed faintly, the echoes of power and passion intertwining. Her heart tore between the two men. One her savior, her obsession, her bond. The other a living key to the questions that haunted her bloodline, a truth she had never been told. Darius's snarl shattered the moment. He lunged, a blur of savage grace, fangs bared. Steel clashed as her father conjured a blade of pure shadow, meeting Darius's claws in a flash of violence that shook the chamber. The generals scattered like frightened animals. The walls cracked. Dust rained from above, and the air filled with the clash of steel, the howl of a beast, and the hiss of shadows. Lyra's chest heaved. Her hands burned with light she didn't understand. She wanted to scream, to stop them, but the mate bond tethered her to Darius's pain. Every wound he took, she felt echo in her bones. Darius bled. Red streaks marred his chest, mixing with the old scars that told his history. He fought like a god, brutal and unyielding. But her father, this ancient force, seemed untouchable, fueled by darkness and the same blood that coursed through her veins. Then the world slowed. Her father's hand wrapped around Darius's throat, slamming him to the cracked marble floor. The Lycan prince struggled, his claws raking at shadows that swallowed him whole. His gaze still found hers, burning with love and defiance. Even as his strength waned, her father's voice cut through her like glass. "Choose, daughter." The shadows around Darius's body tightened, strangling, suffocating. His lips parted, a growl torn from him, his chest heaving as if every breath might be his last. Her father stepped forward, towering over them both, his crimson eyes gleaming. "Stand with me. Embrace the power that was stolen from you, or watch your Lycan prince die at my feet." Lyra's body shook, torn between the pull of blood and the fire of bond. Her glowing hands lifted, caught between them both. The chamber trembled as though the moon herself waited for her answer. Her father tightens his grip on Darius's throat, shadows closing in, his demand slicing through the air. "Choose me or he dies." Chapter 19. The Choice. The chamber quaked beneath the weight of her choice. Darius's body thrashed against the shadows, strangling him, his veins bulging, eyes blazing with primal defiance. Even as his breath faltered, her father's grip tightened, his voice echoing like thunder. "Choose me, child of my blood, or watch him choke on his last breath." Lyra's heart split. The mate bond howled inside her, screaming Darius's agony through every vein in her body. Her skin burned, her soul tore, and then something inside her broke free. The glow beneath her skin exploded into brilliance, flooding the chamber in blinding silver light. Shadows writhed and recoiled, her father snarling as his grip faltered. She screamed, not in fear, but in fury. Every ounce of longing, love, lust, and rage pouring from her. "Darius is mine." With that cry, she became more than Omega, more than Luna. She was Moon Queen incarnate. The floor split as her power surged. Marble shattered into shards. Wolves outside the chamber collapsed to their knees, howling as instinct forced them into submission. Her father's shadow-forged blade disintegrated under the weight of her light. Darius staggered free, bloodied but unbowed, his chest heaving. His gaze found hers, and in the silver blaze of her transformation, desire mingled with awe. Even broken and bleeding, he moved to her side, claws bared. Side by side, they became a storm. Darius's ferocity tore through flesh and shadow, each strike fueled by the mate bond's fire. Lyra's light burned the darkness itself, searing her father's power until the chamber roared with screams of dying shadows. Together, they moved like destiny. Lycan prince and Moon Queen, fury and grace, lust and love woven into destruction. Her father bellowed, staggering under the combined assault. His crimson eyes locked on hers one last time. "Blood remembers," he snarled. "You cannot kill me without killing yourself." Lyra's chest heaved, tears streaking her glowing face. She lifted her hand, pressing her palm to his chest. For a moment, she felt his heartbeat, the same bloodline, the same pulse. Then she forced her power through it, severing the tie. His scream echoed like shattering glass as his body disintegrated into dust, vanishing into the silver storm. Silence fell, broken only by Darius's ragged breaths. He turned to her, his face pale, bruised, but his eyes burning. "You are mine. Not for a night, forever." She collapsed against him, her lips finding his in a kiss that tasted of victory and salt and tears. His arms wrapped around her, unyielding, and the palace itself seemed to tremble with the bond sealing between them. For a heartbeat, it was peace. For a heartbeat, it was bliss. But then the crimson moon above them pulsed red, bathing the ruins in blood. The oracle's voice, long dead, long buried, rose from the shadows, echoing through the night. "What was begun this night shall not end. The Moon Queen's rise awakens the war that devours even princes. Victory births blood. Love births ruin." Lyra stiffened in Darius's arms, her glowing eyes reflecting the crimson omen. Darius tightened his grip, his jaw clenched, his body trembling with both desire and dread. Their night of passion had crowned them. But the crimson moon whispered of war to come. Lyra's glowing eyes linger against the crimson moon. Darius's arms wrapped around her battered body, while whispers of an even darker prophecy hang heavy in the air. Chapter 20, Forever Bound. The night that began with shame ended in fire, blood, and destiny. She was mocked as the forsaken Omega, but rose as the Moon Queen. And though love crowned them, the crimson moon whispered of a war still waiting in the shadows. Lyra's glowing eyes lingered against the crimson moon above. Darius's arms wrapped around her trembling form. Both of them marked by battle, bound by blood, united by a power that could reshape kingdoms. The prophecy still echoed in the air around them. Victory births blood, love births ruin. But in this moment, pressed against his chest, feeling his heartbeat sync with hers through the mate bond, she couldn't bring herself to fear what was coming. The palace lay in ruins around them. Shattered stone, broken bodies, the scent of smoke and shadow still clinging to the air. But they had survived. More than survived, they had conquered. Together, Darius's hand cupped her face, thumb brushing away the tears that streaked her luminous skin. His amber eyes, still wild from battle, softened as they met hers. "No prophecy, no war, no force in this world will take you from me," he whispered, his voice rough with emotion and possession. "You are mine, Lyra. Forever." She leaned into his touch, her power still humming beneath her skin like contained lightning. The oracle's warnings felt distant now, overshadowed by the heat of his gaze, the strength of his arms around her. "And you are mine," she whispered back, the words sealing something deeper than vows, deeper than destiny. Their lips met in a kiss that tasted of victory and blood and promises yet to be kept. The crimson moon pulsed overhead, casting them in shades of fire and shadow, but they were no longer afraid. They had faced the darkness and emerged transformed, not just as mates, but as something new, something powerful, something eternal. The Moon Queen and her Lycan prince, bound by blood, forged in battle, destined to face whatever storms awaited them. Together, as dawn broke over the shattered palace, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose, they stood entwined in the ruins of their old lives, ready to build something new. The war might come, the prophecy might unfold, but they would face it as one, predator and goddess, shadow and light, forever bound by a love that had already conquered death itself. Their story was far from over. If this tale gripped your heart, don't let go now. Subscribe and join this pack because the darkness has only begun to stir, and more forbidden nights await. And while you wait for the next chapter, lose yourself in other stories on this channel, each one woven with passion, power, and danger that will leave you breathless. The end.